Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about solving a quadratic equation by factoring. A quadratic expression is actually a product of two linear expressions, right? If you think about a quadratic expression, any quadratic expression, they will be a product of two linear expressions. That is when the degree of x becomes 2. When you multiply a linear expression with another linear expression, your result will be a quadratic expression. So suppose we have been given a quadratic equation which is like this. Let's say suppose x squared minus 5x plus 6 equal to 0, right? So if we have been given a quadratic equation like this, then we want to try and factorize it. If we can factorize them into two linear factors, meaning if we can convert it into the product of two linear factors, then we can easily find the value of x, right? Which is exactly what we are trying to find out, because solving an equation means find the value of the independent variable, which is x. So for this equation, what are the different values of x that would satisfy this equation? Those values of x will be the solution of this equation or root of this equation, right? So now let's try to factorize this. So from here we can say, okay, this will be equal to x squared. And then now for factorization, we are going to do the middle term expansion, where we are going to factorize the constant term, which is the 6 in this case. We are going to factorize it into all possible factors. So 6 can be factored into a positive 2 times 3. It can be also factored into negative 2 times negative 3. It can be factored into 1 times 6, meaning positive 1 times positive 6. Also it can be factored into negative 1 times negative 6. I think those are the four possible combinations that we can think of which will equate to 6. Now from this combination we have to pick one such combination or one such factor or one such set of factor whose algebraic sum will be equal to this. The algebraic sum will be equal to the coefficient of the second term. The algebraic sum of whatever combination that we are going to pick from this list, their algebraic sum should be equal to that negative 5 right here. So in this case, as you can see, that this is clearly the combination that we want to go with, because the algebraic sum of negative 2 and negative 3 is actually negative 5. So this combination will work out for our purpose. Okay, so let's try that. So now I'm going to split the negative 5 into two pieces. One piece will be the negative 2 times x, and a negative 3 times x, plus 6, that's our original 6, the positive 6, and all of this equals to 0, right? Now let me erase this portion. All right, so from here we can say, okay, now let's look at these two terms together, right? So from the first one we can see that x is a common factor. So if we take the common factor out and put a parenthesis, so from the first term we will be left with one more x, because we had x squared, we took one x common outside the parenthesis. So inside the parenthesis you will be left with just a positive x and a negative 2 for this one. So this is a negative 2 minus, from here we see that 3 is a common factor between these two terms. So let's take negative 3 outside the parenthesis. Then negative 3 from the negative 3x will leave us with just a positive x there. And then negative 3 from the positive 6 will also leave us with a negative 2, because negative 3 times negative 2 will become positive 6, right? So we are almost there. Now let's say, okay, let's now x minus 2 is the common factor. Now here you see that x minus 2 is a common factor. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write x minus 2, that's our common factor, then times whatever we are left with. Now we are left with this x and the negative 3, right? So I'm going to write x minus 3. All of this is equal to 0. So if the product of two factors, if the product of two expressions or product of two algebraic numbers is equal to 0, that means either one of them would be 0 or maybe both of them 0, right? So now let's equate each one of them to 0. So from here we can say, because we have two factors whose product is equal to 0, then each factor can be 0, right? So here we can say x minus 2 is equal to 0, or x minus 3, the other factor, that also can be 0. So from here we can say, okay, x could be equal to 2 or x could be equal to 3. So our solution set will be like this. So we can say that x belongs to this set of two numbers, the positive 2 and the positive 3. Okay, so this is our solution set. So for the above quadratic equation, the two roots or the two solutions of that equation is x equals 2 or x equals 3. Now let's take another example. Suppose we have been given, so I am going to take another example. Suppose we have been given a quadratic equation which is like this. Suppose sometimes there could be items on the other side of the equation. So suppose this is a quadratic equation. So the first step we want to do is, for any quadratic equation, when solving any quadratic equation, the first step we should try and do is bring everything to the left side and make the right hand side 0. Right, so we are going to transpose everything to the left side. So in this case it will be x squared that was already there on the left side, and the positive 1 from right hand side coming to the left hand side becomes negative 1, and then right hand side becomes 0. This is the ideal picture that we want to come to at the very first step. No matter whatever way an equation has been given to you, try to bring everything to one side and the other side should be 0, right? Okay, so now we want to try and factorize. So in this case, what would be the easiest way to factorize? Okay, so we have x squared minus 1. Can we write 1 as a 1 squared? And now we have an opportunity here. So now we have, it's like an a square minus b square form. So we know that if we have a square minus b square, this can be factored into a plus b times a minus b. Right, so we are going to deploy the same algebra here. So we'll say, okay, we can write it as x plus 1, because here a is the x and b is the 1. So a plus b, which is x plus 1, times a minus b, which is x minus 1. So this is equal to 0. Now from here we can say, let me scroll down a little bit. So from here we can say that the product of two factors is equal to 0. That means either factor can be 0. So x plus 1 is equal to 0, or x minus 1 is equal to 0. So from here we get the first value of x, which is x equals negative 1, or from here we get x equals positive 1. So finally our solution is x belonging to the set of two numbers, which is negative 1 and positive 1. I hope it all made sense. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.